What's up, Juggalos? Beastmaster here. This is a response video to BigIrishJuggalo, the why of it all. Doing this response on CarnivalSpirits because this channel is the reason I started doing videos in the first place. But I'm going to tell you a story. In 1996, the Boston Sunday Globe approached our high school about having the junior class submit artwork for a project called In Our Own Words Part 2. And they gave us little notebooks. After a time period we submitted them, and they used some of my artwork in the Boston Sunday Globe magazine. And then I was told that some of my art was also featured on their website, on the internet. And I was like, what? Like, huh? Somebody showed me in the high school library, but even after I saw it, I couldn't wrap my head around websites yet. Okay, that was my introduction. But then I went to college in '97, and it was all about AOL, IMs, ICQ, instant messages. Once I caught wind of bands using websites to, give people information as compared to having fan clubs, and, other bands like Megadeth.com have been up and running since as early as the mid-90s. I used to build those free GeoCities websites, those homestead sites. Back in the day there was the top 10 Juggalo websites, and Juggalos have been finding a way to connect ever since Juggalos have been conceived. I can understand if younger ninjas don't grasp the transition from like an isolated small town or city life to a global community. It goes beyond the Juggalo nation. In our lifetime we've seen major changes, and gone from rotary phones to 8-tracks to Bluetooth and touchscreens, you know what I'm saying? But I graduated college in 2002, right after the second gathering. Since then I've worn many hats in the workforce. Juggalos need to understand that being down with the clown doesn't mean that the music or the scene has to consume your life. But if it does, so be it. Issues and problems are often just in your head. Remember when Scotty mentioned in a video recently about Through Your Eyes from Mirror Mirror, and how it was misconstrued? And that's all because of like that internet chatter and the fueled speculation that usually it was dwelling on Joker's card gossip or the butterfly or the number 17 popping up once in a while. But there were chat rooms, message boards, the 6.com, Real Juggalos, Fago lovers. This is where everybody interested could find like-minded ninjas, or talk about this stuff that they were discovering underground. There's always been a Juggalo community, just not all of us have been vocal. Some ninjas periodically check in, and some ninjas are always online voicing their opinion 24/7. Some ninjas just go straight to the source. That was me for the most part. Go right to InsaneClownPosse.com and let the speculation die out. I think in 2005 I was working in sales, and one of my college buddies who was in a band told me about his MySpace, and I thought it was cool because I was bugging him about how I could, hear some of his tracks, because I go see him perform at dive bars in Salem and Beverly, and I know they were recording, but they weren't making CDs. So when he told me he had like 3 or 4 songs up on this website called MySpace, I signed right up. It didn't even occur to me at first, but I had this song, and until this point I had no plan on what to do with it, really. Okay, the song is like an open letter to ICP, a thank you letter, and I thought of it in '99. I finished writing it after The Wraith came out in 2002, and I had always told myself before I threw it up online that I would give this CD or give this song on a disc to Jay or Shaggy or Alex Abbas, and I just sat on it for years, only playing it for personal friends and whatnot. But then one day it hit me. I wondered if there were any Juggalos on MySpace. Duh. As soon as I saw the return on my search, I immediately abandoned my profile and made my first Beastmaster profile. And then I threw Dear Joe and Joey up on there on the music player. And I started messaging ninjas. So 2 years later, the song had reached over 50,000 plays, and it had earned me a spot on the Bombhouse stage at the Gathering at Cave and Rock. And performing music live is something I never thought about doing until They had a calling for ninjas that wanted to perform at the gathering, and I thought, if I'm ever going to perform, it's got to be this song and it's got to be at the gathering. So and that moment ended up being so special and so powerful that I decided to start performing as much as I could and take rapping seriously, because it felt amazing. Before the 2007 gathering, I wasn't a performing artist at all. But, I had been in a school play in high school, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and I actually had a solo because I was one of the brothers. The only reason I landed that gig is because I could project my voice. So the past 4 years have been a real roller coaster for me. And in 2008, I put out Juggalo Agenda. I'll put a link in the description for that. Remember in the ICP seminar when Jay says that he's an old-ass man at 30? He's joking, but I can relate. I've always expressed my feelings the best way I know how, and that's usually through writing. I love writing and I love creating. I'm working hard to get a master's degree and a teacher's licensure for special education. I have a friend who's a professional photographer who wants to shoot portraits of juggalos, similar to this previous project he did on reformed gang members. We're going to try and schedule that around the next ICP tour so we can get ninjas to take their pictures taken. So I just posted this speech I gave on the Dark Carnival in 2001. 11 years ago, I've been waiting to share this. In 2 days it's gotten over 1,000 hits, which is great because I want everybody to see it. Here I am on YouTube, and I'm using it to promote these things, to raise awareness about things that are important to ninjas, I'm trying to give the world a chance to rethink their assumptions about juggalos. This has nothing to do with celebrity. Nobody's famous. Nobody. All I've done is wrote some thank you songs and then wrote some songs that, really express my feelings about the juggalo world. Tribute music became an interest of mine because everybody makes diss songs, and homage being paid is rarely done. I felt that ICP deserved it. I felt they deserved it in '99. And now it's the 10-year anniversary of the Wraith. I've always been here. Facebook, Twitter, my Juggalo space, Reverb Nation, YouTube. But I've been watching a lot of you guys, some longer than others. People like CPN. What he was doing in his vlogs was exactly what I was doing with my music. Years ago, it wasn't the right time for me to consider vlogging. And I can't say I didn't think about it. Over the past 2 years, I think I thought about it a lot. So I saw Scotty Two Ball's Wraith Story contest, and I missed the deadline, but I thought about entering that. And when he created CarnivalSpirits, I immediately sent him a message, and the rest is history. That's why I make YouTube videos. I don't think enough old school juggalos are willing to stand up and be honest about how they feel, except for the ones that, lost their shine. So, anyways, I'm Beastmaster. Please make a response video for BigIrishJuggalo and tell him why you make YouTube videos if you make them. It'd be awesome if you guys made a response video for some of CarnivalSpirits videos once in a while, because we're trying to make this interactive. I'm here doing these videos this year in 2012, but probably at the end of the year when I get my teacher's licensure, I'm going to stop making regular videos. I don't want to repeat myself. I'm just going to bang out as many significant topics and reminisce on as many awesome experiences as I can over the course of this year, and then I'm going to lighten up and who knows, it'll be a new chapter in my life. But I'm not going to just keep on making like endless YouTube videos about ICP till the cows come home. I'm going to talk about everything that needs to be talked about, and then we'll drop it. Okay? So, much clown love. I'm Beastmaster. Check out the links in the description. Keep it wicked. I just look at ICP as creating something so inspiring that they've got people tripping out over understanding it and trying to educate each other as if the music wasn't enough. You know what I mean? If somebody doesn't get it, they don't get it, or they don't want to get it.